around.
Oh.
And again, it all, my
Was it
memory
just
fails.
you, or was it the four of you that were down at Virginia?
Yeah, so this time we had become a foursome, a quartet. We had, started to find our way. I think it was, if I ever, yeah, we had already. So I kind of skipped over it, but as my songwriting is coming together, there's this sort of infamous road trip that I took to Louisiana during a spring break, where like at the time we had the pull out. Remember the pull out car radios where you had your CD player
Oh yeah,
or maybe in the car, and to try to keep people from stealing your car
yeah,
radio, there was it had a handle, and you'd see people walking around with their car radios all the time with the
yeah,
handle. Remember that era?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
when you see old school. Somebody needs to depict that in a YouTube video or something. That was hilarious thinking about how many of us were walking around with our Pioneer car stereo,
Yeah.
someone from stealing it. Well, I didn't have one of those. And in DC, DC is DC, urban environment. So my radio got stolen
Wow.
right before spring break when I was about to make this, 24-hour drive back to Louisiana to go see my family. And so, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me because I had no music to play. I would have probably been listening to Babyface and Jam and Lewis, and I was also obsessed with Jam and Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I would have been listening to nothing but that on the way, and not having a radio meant that I was in silence. So I made a 24-hour drive in winter, and my heat went out too, so I had no heat in the Northeast United States and no music to make that drive, make a 24-hour drive to Louisiana. And I've done a few weird things where I've driven both to Washington D.C. from Louisiana, these 24-hour drives, Louisiana to Los Angeles. They're almost identical
Yeah, I've done that
in
trip
distance,
before.
opposite way, right? So I've I've done these drives a few times without stopping,
Oh, well,
right?
just for pet gas and then move on.
Gas and food, and
Yeah.
that's it. And just 22, 21, we're made out of Teflon.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much do anything, a cup of coffee. And that drive in silence, repetition. I've listened to so many Babyface songs now, diagram them, that I was, at this point, song structure is sort of becoming just sort of how I think, you
Mm.
know. So with that sort of, blueprint there, I just started coming up with stuff. And that trip, I was just coming up with songs. And If I Ever Fall in Love came from that trip where I just started singing it. And in my mind, I'd sort of come up with this silly adage that if the song was good, I remember it, right? Because it happens a lot with writers. You remember a great idea, you
Mm.
come back, you come back later, you've forgotten it. Now we have voice notes and, there are ways around it. But then I come up with this ridiculous thing where if I couldn't remember it, it wasn't that good, right? It makes no sense. Like sometimes, brainstorm, But again, 22-year-old me thought that, and that song I wrote and remembered line for line, almost within like 2 or 3 times of you know, coming up with it. And I just, yeah, I knew immediately we had something. So that on the drive back, I called guys Darnell. I'm like, we have to go in and record this now. I don't know why. But I came up with a few. I think Baby I'm Yours was that trip. I think Comforter was probably that trip. All on that ride with no music, me being forced to make my own music. Um, yeah, that's what led to coming up with some classics.
But what was like? If you think of if I ever fall in love, were you thinking about something and then you were singing it all? And the reason I ask is because Elder Bard talked about writing time of reveal and seeing a couple when he was in the park, a couple, and the inspiration of what they were saying to each other was he was just imagining what they were saying, and that's how he wrote "Time Will Reveal." But I'm wondering, when you're writing "If I Ever Fall in Love" and you're driving, are you just imagining, man, if I had a relationship, I could be relaxed? Or what inspires you to write it while driving?
Yeah, that's a great question. My methodology is I'm a storyteller, by nature. Any kind of story, long form, short form, songs. To me, they're all stories. And I bonded with L.A. Reid over this, and he said, man, he's got this great way of like pumping up producers and make them feel like they created the first song. And L.A. would say, man, you're a storyteller. I can tell. And that really, he won me over, because that is how I write. I need a full story in my mind. It can be mine, it can be someone else's, but there need to be characters, for lack of a better word, in real situations, having backstories, having a lot. And then what I'll do in terms of lyrics is sort of extract, the sort of plot points of the story. And that's sort of how I inherently write and come up with lyrics. So a lot of people say, well, that's superfluous. You don't need to do all that. But I don't think so, because I think that human communication, we speak a certain shorthand. I can say certain things and the masses will understand what I mean just through references, right? So that's why I think having a full story and then pulling out lines or plot or points from that story, together, is what paints the picture for someone hearing it blindly. It helps paint the picture for image of what's trying to be communicated. So that was a long way of answering. There was a girl in my U.S. history since 1877 class that I sat next to, who had a boyfriend, and we just had a thing. Like, I had a girlfriend, she had a boyfriend that we both liked. We both were, liked our situations very much. We also liked each other, and it was just clear. It was clear that if we weren't in these, happy situations, then we would probably be together. We got along that way, and that connection was what I was talking about. If I Ever Fall in Love is me telling that story.
Okay. So okay.
Yeah, that's me pulling out some of the lines from that story to describe, that unique relationship with that person. And I think, at the time, I'm 21, I think that was the first time I'd ever actually, liked someone, felt happy outside of it, and felt like, okay, this is what this is supposed to be. But if it wasn't, if I had to do it over again, then I'd want it to be.
Wow. And
want it to be like this.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between
us, or even loving us, on which I didn't miss you.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No. Okay.
They don't understand what Jonas' voice is winning all spirits.
Play it.
And all these guys, they all work together.
I mean, I love all different genres.